You ask most people what their number one fear is, what do you think it is? Most people's number one fear is public humiliation. I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm not afraid of it. Because I've had plenty. And now, it's just time for me to say, I'm tough. Because what does not kill you.
Mel Gibson has never been one to back down from a challenge. In an industry driven by trends and carefully crafted images, he stands out as a defiant figure, unafraid to call out Hollywood's double standards. With his latest film, Sound of Freedom, Gibson dives into one of the industry's most uncomfortable subjects, sparking outrage and admiration alike. So why is Hollywood so furious, and how is Gibson leading the charge against woke culture? Let's get into it. Sound of Freedom isn't your average Hollywood flick. It tackles the harrowing issue of child trafficking, particularly in Latin America. In an industry that often prefers to sweep uncomfortable truths under the rug, Gibson and his team boldly chose to shine a light on a grim reality that many would rather ignore. As we delve into this topic, it's clear that Gibson is not just a filmmaker, but a provocateur challenging the very foundations of what Hollywood stands for today.
Generally passively sit by and tolerate any kind of nonsense, but if one of their priests utters something that resembles orthodoxy, well then they spring into action, they reprimand him, and they bully him and do their best to cancel him. And it succeeds. They drum him out of the service, off he goes.
From the moment Sound of Freedom hit the scene, the big studios wanted nothing to do with it. They were hoping it would quietly disappear. But Mel had other plans. Instead of backing down, he executed a brilliant strategy with a staggered release across multiple countries, keeping the conversation alive. This wasn't just clever marketing, it was a strategic move that ensured the film remained relevant and sparked necessary discussions. While mainstream Hollywood might prefer their narratives polished and sanitized, Gibson's film embraces the raw and the real.
Sound of Freedom has a message filled with hope and inspiration. The film sparks conversations and encourages people to help end trafficking in their own community. Go see it.
Now, allow me to praise the captivating feature, which is Sound of Freedom. The plot explains how child exploitation is not only abetted or initiated by the evil people who are always shunned by the eye. One of the most disturbing moments in the movie is that a young little girl is being seduced, not by a dirty old man, but by a woman offering her sweets, only for the little girl to end up in a very tough situation. This stark imagery has prompted the discussion. Why is it that the film Mapia is so afraid of what is real? It is more than just a movie. It is a perfect weapon for a mobilization movement, and this is mostly why it is highly feared by the status quo. There is a resolute passion that comes out of Mel Gibson's words in the film. He has called out the double standards of Hollywood, where people in the business of making films advocate for changes in society, yet more often than not, the stories that they tell are in stark contrast to the lives of many. He has made a statement, "I have never understood why in the history of this particular industry, Hollywood has been quite easily the most radically and inputlessly shaken." And that speaks to the effect that the film had on the audiences. Gibson is shaking up the industry, wokeness and all, by overstepping the biases. Some people are not pleased with this. There was, of course, the tendency to boycott the film or to wage attacks on right-wing extremism, finding the film hard A-core. Consider the threat it posed to an image that has been so painstakingly constructed. One would expect this response. The success of the film made the polity compartmentalize their own story from that of unscripted politics. In other words, Sound of Freedom is an advertisement for an anti-society that the given industry itself is an integral part of.
It does feel different. I think because, I don't know, I think just because I've been around longer, it's different. Yeah. I'm more relaxed about the whole thing, because there's no point in being anything else, right?
It's true.
So, I'm not going to get all wound up about it. I'm going to just try and, observe.
Yeah.
And let's give credit where it is due. The star power always helps this cause. Gibson has always poked his finger into the eye of Hollywood, not only through the films he has directed, but also in some brash interviews. Like, for example, Hacksaw Ridge. This particular blood war film avoided the sugarcoating that Hollywood is known for and presented a true account of bravery in the face of 11.1 odds. The audience loved it, confirming that such stories are appreciated, and the old ways of storytelling just do not cut it anymore. Now, looking towards the future, it's obvious that Gibson is not going to take a step back, especially now with the Passion of the Christ Resurrection project in the works. This picture is still in preparation stages. However, it will hyper-focus and smash all the territories Hollywood's elite are uncomfortable with extreme topics of Christianity. There's a way that I am seeing these projects as a way of making sure that he says he is ready for the consequences and, most importantly, speaks. But here's the twist. In what could have been an isolating backlash by heeding to the numerous calls from Hollywood to tone himself down, Gibson's rebellion has not only survived, but finds itself with elbow room. Some actors, like Dwayne Johnson, engaged in their own shenanigans, but were not grilled as such. When Gibson accuses the system of hypocrisy, many people who are unhappy about the way social justice is handled in the film industry understand him very well.
In today's easy cancel culture world, and cancel culture, woke culture, this culture, that culture, division, etc., that really bugs me.
Gibson's candid remarks about the state of Hollywood are hard-hitting. He bluntly points out that many women in film are portrayed as either naked or dead, highlighting the industry's failure to provide substantial roles for women. His willingness to speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, sets him apart from many of his peers. In a world where conformity often reigns, his unapologetic stance is refreshing, and it's no wonder that his films are striking a chord with audiences.
Why are there no decent parts for women? Why are actresses, why are women just completely underused in storytelling within this system known as Hollywood?
Well, I think the storytelling has always been a kind of a male medium.
Always in history?
All from the start. Yes,
women tend to kind of pop up and sort of endorse men, take their clothes off if they're in a good enough shape, and leave. One of the actresses I spoke to, actually, I came up with what I thought was a pretty smart thing, which was saying, I said, at what point do you see the decline in women's roles? She said, the moment women took their clothes off, and it became a given, then seemed to be a lack of respect and a dropping off of interest in other points of interest about women. You know?
He says, women on film, either naked or dead.
The success of Sound of Freedom raises a rather interesting point regarding Mel Gibson. He is not just a filmmaker, he is also a disruptor. It is not just about him trying to protect his own skin. He is also in a fight for the very soul of Hollywood. While he is present almost everywhere, there is a strong push for him to avoid the Eastern concepts of wokeness. So, what's the situation like for Mel Gibson with Hollywood in the future? One thing can be said for certain, he is not going anywhere. Even as the industry is still trying to figure out who they are, the voice of Gibson is still relevant. He makes films that are different from the norm, and that helps people question the stories that are fed to them. Love him or hate him, Mel Gibson is undeniably pushing boundaries in an industry that often shies away from raw, controversial topics. With Sound of Freedom still making waves, it's clear that he's not backing down anytime soon. Do you think he's setting a new standard in Hollywood, or is he fighting a losing battle against woke culture? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.